Me and Haymitch are kind of similar in that way. We're kind of both suffering, and we're kind of both like in the Hunger Games. Like, I'm metaphorically like in the Hunger Games, and he's like literally in the Hunger Games. I need to tell you about the absolute process it was to finish this book. I've been sat for this book since it was announced. I was so excited to read it, and tell me why I could not get through it in no less than 4 days. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and everybody reads at their own pace, but I was literally sure I would be done night of, that I'd be filming the vlog, I would be uploading it the Wednesday morning after it came out. Wishful thinking on my part. Let me set the scene. I work at a bookstore, and I was off on Tuesday, which was the release day, but I wanted the book so bad that I was willing to go in as soon as the store opened to pick it up. I did not even have the book when the store opened. The delivery did not come until like 2 p.m. and by that I knew that people had already had it since midnight, so I already felt like I was so behind. But I went to the store, picked up the book, then like couldn't start it. Every time I thought about starting it, I thought about how much pressure I was putting on this book and also myself to enjoy it. I don't know why. I guess because I've been waiting for so long. I was not waiting for Songbirds and Snakes like I was for Sunrise on the Reaping, because at the time, for whatever reason, I thought that ballad was going to be told as Snow's perspective on Katniss's games, and I really wasn't interested in that. I didn't think that it would provide much to my Hunger Games experience. And then I ended up reading the book and watching the movie, and I really loved it. Things that I loved about The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes are somewhat in this book, but honestly somewhat not. Anyway, we'll get to that. So I went to the store. I picked up the book, got home. Hello, I just got home and I'm letting my dog out. Yes? Hello? You're excited? No? Okay. Chill. Ate a salad. I got the book and I started reading. Hello, welcome to the unwashed, grubby hair show. It's release day, and I have to read quickly so I can experience this as soon as possible. And also, I'm not that worried about spoilers because we already know vaguely what happens, but I just wanted to pop in before I start reading and give my predictions, just based off of vibes, what I know of Haymitch's games already, and I did accidentally spoil it for myself for just a little bit. I was in the car and I accidentally flipped to like the last page, and I did read a name that I didn't expect to see, but we will get into that, I'm sure, in a little bit. I think this will take me roughly 6 hours. Yeah, I just have to get through it. Oh, my prediction. Duh, that's what I'm here for. Based off of the cover to the hardcover sleeve, my guess is, and especially because we know that this Hunger Games there were twice the amount of contestants, I think there's infighting. I don't know, my like just gut instinct is to say that it's about infighting, and that some of them believe in the promise of the Hunger Games, and then it will be, you know, thrown away eventually, I'm sure. That's my guess, just on the fact that the snake and the bird in the image here are connected and they're fighting each other, and there's like a crown in the middle, so somebody who's not involved in that fight is going to end up with the crown, which is my guess, and that is Haymitch, obviously, we know that. I will pop in here and there to say my little thoughts, and then I'll give a review at the end, and I might have to go into work in between, yikes. But I just picked this up from work and I got to use my 30% discount. Let's get into it, man. Okay. Literally, what are you looking at? I changed into sweatpants. I'm switching into Haymitch Abernathy mode. Shore. Oh my gosh. This is like absolutely the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Like the name, I remember the name because I read the books. Just finished chapter 1 and I'm really liking it so far. I'm on chapter 2. It's interesting to see a lot of names repeating in the District 12 inhabitants, and that's something that I think became apparent with the Ballad of Songbirds of Snakes, is that she wants to tie a lot of these characters together through the shared place and lineage, I guess, of District 12. The thing I'm noticing is that these first couple, this first chapter, it's kind of going for a little bit of like a funnier like tone. Haymitch wears like booty shorts that say property of the capital on it. That's just kind of funny. So I think these first few pages, especially him joking around with Hattie, is like way more lighthearted than opening of the original Hunger Games, which was like very somber and very sad. I know that Suzanne Collins is really trying to build up the connections that Haymitch has to District 12 and to his family and to his friends there, because we know, awful things are going to happen to them. So we want to know them in the beginning so then it will hurt more and be more effective in the end when something bad happens to them. So they did a fake out. Obviously this is going to have spoilers. So they did a fake out where you think that Haymitch is going to make it and scoot by, but he's not. The kid who gets called runs away and is killed by a peacekeeper, so we know what's going to happen. Well, I have a guess of whose name is going to get called in the second chapter. Of course, interesting to see Haymitch that isn't bogged down with guilt, and we see him like as a much just as like a kid. And there's his love interest, Lenore Dove. I think I know what poem they're talking about, but I'll look it up. I know the poet that they're talking about, but I can't remember the name, so it sounds like I don't know. It's Edgar Allan Poe. Poet is Edgar Allan Poe. The poem is The Raven, and it becomes very clear as you read through the book. I thought I was so smart. I was not smart. The song that Lenore Dove is singing about the goose. They hang the man and they flog the woman who steals the goose from off the common, yet let the greater villain loose that steals the common from the goose. I'm interested to see if that's a reference to the tragedy of the commons, which is a economic principle. Yeah, it's interesting to see that the theme that's starting to develop is like a determined fate. Where Haymitch and Lenore are talking about in the first chapter is like saying that the sun will rise has just as much validity as saying that the sun won't rise, because there's technically no way of knowing that it will be true besides the fact that the sun has risen in the past for all that time, and it's kind of flawed logic to just assume that it will go on the same way. Well, it's introduced in the first chapter, so I'm guessing it's going to be a theme, and I'll check back in maybe in a couple chapters, because I don't know if this was super interesting to listen to, and I might move upstairs soon because this is actually not that comfortable or aesthetic. So what are we doing? Oh, this is awful. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. They have to recall the second male tribute. If they don't do it randomly, it's not by random chance. There's panic and chaos in the square because one of the kids tried to run away, but he was shot by a peacekeeper, and so Lenore Dove caught up in it, and Haymitch is going to protect her from getting hit with a rifle, but then they grab him and they're like, this is the tribute, and so they grab, and then he's in the Hunger Games, and it's not even random. I know I was joking by saying oh, we know what happens, but these books are so good at taking what you think is going to happen and then expanding it and making it even worse than you thought it was. I'm sad. LOL, this is rotted too, in a good way. / pause. Just getting grubbier and grubbier in this video, but that's okay. I got sidetracked after dinner. I started watching hair wrap videos for hair for an hour, and I don't own one of those, but I'm way behind schedule, and I have work tomorrow, so I can't stay up that late, so I will read as much as I can tonight, and then I will probably see you tomorrow. Which sucks because I have to go to work in between. Ugh. I ended the first day of reading, I think at 100 pages or less, and it was taking me forever. And then the next day I had work, which was ironic because the book was sitting out and it was like on display and people were coming in to buy it, and I just had to sadly watch as copies of it walked away with readers before I could go back to reading. Checking from my lunch break, I'm eating cold fish. Can't move 54 more hours, which sucks because it's taunting me because it's literally sitting out front. Then I got home and suddenly I couldn't read again. Hello. Time to read. Okay, I know I'm like so behind schedule, but that's like there are occurrences occurring. So I'll just catch you up to where Haymitch is. Haymitch picked For the Reaping kind of like non-traditionally. I mean, not kind of, like absolutely non-traditionally, and kind of breaks down the idea of fairness, that everybody has an equal opportunity of being picked, which is something that we've touched on before, like with Lucy Gray in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, how she probably wasn't the person on that slip of paper that was read out, but to see it so blatantly portrayed of like him literally being in the wrong place in the wrong time, I think that's a great subversion of what we expected to happen. Well, Haymitch, he is introduced to the other 3 tributes from his district, and he recognizes all of them vaguely, but he knows Luella the most because she's like a little sister to him. She's grown up with him. Like when they were little kids, they like called each other sweetheart. They both use that old nickname. Like they'll say they'll be allies in the arena, and was like a little bit clever, and we're seeing like how she could come into play and how she's good at reading what the other tributes from their district are thinking. We already see like that she is a source of like knowledge and she'll be a good asset, and she's also a friend to Haymitch, and we like that comfort, and we like knowing that he's going to have someone to support him in the arena because we already like Haymitch from previous books and from the beginning of this book. All of a sudden they get to the grooming session, and their stylist is like this old guy who hates District 12 and hates being the stylist for District 12 and gives them these gross outfits that they've been using for like the past 20 years. I think that because he's late, like maybe he's coming with a really cool outfit, but he's not, and it's just the ugly coal miners outfits again, but he fixed the lights on the helmets. They go to the parade ceremony and they go to the chariots and everything, and they're late and everything's a mess, and their chariots suck, and their horses are really old and bad at being horses. It's going along, you're like, oh, this is kind of par for the course. District 12, like, gosh, they just have the worst circumstances ever, and you're like, okay, that's just to illustrate how much of an underdog District 12 is, and even why it says they're long shots. They're really not favored to win anything at all. We're also seeing Maisie Lee at this time, and we're understanding that she's mean, but she's also like very anti-capital and anti this whole thing going on, and she even like gets into like a fight with their escort Drusilla, who is set up to be very rude and very mean and very different from Effie. So we're getting to know the personalities of all the tributes and understanding what it's going to look like when they go into the arena. And all of a sudden, they are riding in the chariot, and the horses, like, go crazy, and Luella is killed. She and Haymitch fall out of the chariot, and she dies before she even makes it into the arena. But, like, that's crazy. Like, the way that they were setting her up, they kept, like, introducing, like, they are good friends, and they call each other sweetheart. You are thinking, like, oh, it's gonna suck when we have to watch her die in the arena. Like, that's really gonna get to me. And before you even have the chance to get to the arena, she's already dead. She's already dead. So, yeah, I guess we'll just keep going and see how much worse it can get. Really twisting the knife, Suzanne. OMG, Effie did show up. Okay, so I think that Effie Trinket's family was just implied to be cannibals. or at least her great aunt and great uncle. So I think with that, I'm gonna call it a night and see you tomorrow. So that was super cool. I made it all the way up to about where the Hunger Games actually start in this book. And let me establish the plot, actually. Sunrise on the Reaping was released on March 18th, so that was last Tuesday for me. It is the second prequel to the Hunger Games series. This one follows after the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, which was the first prequel. That was following Coriolanus Snow, who becomes President Snow, and the 10th Hunger Games. And this is following Haymitch Abernathy, who is Peeta and Katniss's mentor for the 74th Hunger Games, and a character throughout all that trilogy. This is following his games, which were the 50th, which is the second quarter quell. Every increment of 25, the capital introduces some new aspect to the game to memorialize the Dark Days, which we heard a lot about in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. For this Hunger Games, the new rule change is that there are double the amount of tributes. We knew about this games and we know how it ends, which I allude to a lot while I'm reading it. It ends with Haymitch winning the games, but because of his actions during the games, his entire family is killed, and we know this happens because it was mentioned in Catching Fire. So this has been known for a long time. We had a lot of questions about exactly how it happened and what he did to piss President Snow off so badly. We knew how this was going to end, and we've known how it was going to end for years. The grub train continues, but that's okay. Yeah, so obviously you won't know this from the video because it will just be edited together, but I haven't been reading the book for the past 2 days, and I know I said that I would finish this in 6 hours, but that absolutely did not happen. Life occurrences occurred. Me and Haymitch are kind of similar in that way. We're kind of both suffering, and we're kind of both like in the Hunger Games. Like, I'm metaphorically like in the Hunger Games, and he's like literally in the Hunger Games because I have to go back to work tomorrow, and I had to go to work today, and I can't believe it. I can't believe that I have to do that again. Anyway, I wanted to wait until I could film again because we're about to start the actual Hunger Games. Catch you up to speed. So this is so crazy to me. Like, obviously I know that these books can go really insane with like how much they torture their characters, but how I was upset about Luella dying before she even made it to the arena, and instead of being like, that sucks, that's awful, that's the worst it can get, it got worser. President Snow shows up personally to introduce Haymitch to Luella remastered. And this is because Haymitch dropped Luella's body in front of President Snow at the parade to like make him own the fact that he killed her. They have found some girl from the districts and like brainwashed her into being a Luella clone basically, but her brain's so messed up and she only knows how to say like, I'm Luella. I don't know, it's so sad. It's sad that he's being like haunted by this grotesque imitation of his childhood friend, and that she is going to have to go into the games and pretend to be Luella and probably, presumably, get killed very early on, and it's just really messed up. And yeah, Plutarch Heavensbee has reappeared as well. He's been throughout the chapters, I just haven't mentioned him, but he has told Haymitch how possibly that he can break the arena. The hint that he gave him was that the sun in the arena will match the actual sun in the sky. So it will rise in the east and set in the west, which is great for telling direction because Haymitch needs to get to the north of the arena to find the water tank. And this is a plan that he concocted with BT, and he has to find the water tank and blow it up using Amper's help, BT's son, which is so messed up as well. And then it will flood the computer system to the arena and at least break the games and show that it is breakable. So I'm at the games. Plutarch Heavensbee's final gift to Haymitch before sending him off into the arena was a phone call with Lenore Dove. Yeah, I don't know. We're just right about to see what happens. mentioned he's thinking about why he's gotten his first sponsor gift after Lulu dies from poison flowers, if the games are being edited to make it look like he killed Lulu. He killed someone from his own district, and that's why he deserved the sponsor gift. Promise of this book is that it was going to tell this story in a new way and let us know more about this event, basically, and let us into Haymitch's character more. And I think it did that, but I also think that I left the book feeling conflicted, because while I enjoyed it and while I enjoyed seeing Haymitch's games, I wasn't sure how much it contributed to the overall narrative, because we kind of already knew this stuff about Haymitch. I'm not saying it wasn't unenjoyable. I enjoyed literally every minute of it, even though I struggled to read it sometimes. That was more to do with, I don't know, things happening. But this book is really good, and it's a really good Hunger Games novel, but there was a part of me that wanted it to be more of a prequel novel, and we've seen in these prequels that we're developing the games into what they are when we meet Katniss and Peeta in the 74th Hunger Games, and getting out those kinks that tributes have exploited, or getting all the facets of the Hunger Games that make it so impossible to escape and make it the perfect punishment, as well as reward, because there is always that promise of hope for the tributes, that they could change their lives, and that's why we have the careers. This sounds negative. I loved the book. I thought it was really good, but there is an element and a part of me that wishes we would have seen something a little bit different than what we expected. We knew that it was going to be sad, it was going to be tragic, there was going to be a lot of loss and sadness and hurt, and I really felt that in the last part of this book, where Haymitch is just being tortured, lol, just being tortured, and then he has to watch his mom and his brother burn to death, and by the end of it, there is an epilogue that jumps into the future at the end of the original trilogy, and we hear from Haymitch then, and he is remembering his sweetheart, not his sweetheart, oh my god, his love, Lenore Dove, from when he was 16. But in terms of new information, I was expecting a little bit more. I loved learning about President Snow in the first book, even though I really didn't think I would like it, because it showed us something that was so different. It showed us how Capital citizens think, as well as how someone outside of the Hunger Games sees them, and also how the Capital, punishes its citizens and controls them. And that was really interesting and just so different than what we had seen before. And this was a very classic Hunger Games novel. It had all the elements that you expect when you hear the Hunger Games, but it was a dark mirror of Katniss's games. Everything that could go wrong, that didn't go wrong for Katniss, goes wrong for Haymitch. His act of resistance and rebellion is punished immediately. His whole family is punished, and even though he plays the part of a good victor afterwards, he is still left alone at the end, and that's just really sad and really depressing. I kind of already knew this about Haymitch's life, and so that's where I felt a little bit of lack in terms of what I expected from this book, because it kind of leaves us with the exact same impression that we had of him when we heard that his entire family was killed. Damn, that sucks. And this is just an expansion on the damn that sucks. But anyways, let me get back to describing the plot. Haymitch is reaped for the 50th Hunger Games along with Wyatt, who is another boy from District 12 that he knows to be related to this family that sets up all these odds and gambling for tributes and who's going to be reaped. And it's kind of depraved and really messed up that they do that and they take bets on tributes' lives, but it's also something that people in the Capital do. There's also Luella McCoy, who is Haymitch's childhood friend, and there's a whole plot about that whole tragedy, and she's basically killed before the Hunger Games even began, and they replace her with a look-alike version of her that's meant to act as her throughout the Hunger Games, to not give in to the fact that a tribute died before the Hunger Games even started, and that the tribute died because of the parade like going awry. And then there's Maisie Donner, and I think my favorite part of the book was hearing about her and hearing her story, because this is a character that we just knew the slightest bit about. We knew that she was in some way related to the Mockingjay pin, and that she was Haymitch's partner in the games, and she was killed at some point. Duh. I think she was my favorite part of the book because she has real character growth, and the Haymitches and her relationship has real growth throughout the book, where we see she's so mean in the beginning and she isn't a friend to other people in her district. She is mean and snotty and privileged and everything that Haymitch is not. But they bond over their shared hatred of the capital and the shared suffering that they are dealing with, where Haymitch is actually more submissive, I guess. Implicit submission is brought up in this book. Plutarch Heavensby tells him why are you submitting before they force you to? Whereas Maisie Donner, even though she has the privilege of being a richer citizen of District 12, she is way more direct in resisting the capital. She argues with their escort Drusilla a lot, fights back physically and verbally, and also with her kindness. Even though she is mean, she helps out so many of the younger tributes with making pendants and making their tokens into beautiful jewelry and stuff that they can wear into the arena. And I just really liked her character. It was so lovely to learn more about her, and that's an aspect of this book that I really loved. Yeah, I think that the end is just so depressing, and for me, I didn't feel like there was a ton of merit in telling that whole depressing story in that way, because we kind of already knew that, and I don't feel like this added so much to that discussion besides the fact that Haymitch feels horrible and guilty, which we kind of already knew. So there is a part of me that is frustrated with that ending, but because we don't even have how Lucy Gray kind of escaped President Snow in Ballad, we don't even have that kind of ambiguous ending. We kind of just have that's it. So I don't know. I definitely like the book. I think I would give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Obviously these are inflated because I love this series, and there's no unbiased judging of these because I'm biased. I have opinions, everybody has opinions, and I like this series. So I would rank this, for me personally, a little bit lower than The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I would like to see if Suzanne Collins continues with these prequels. I would like to see, possibly, not that she's listening to me, I would like to see if she could introduce another perspective different than what we have experienced with Katniss and Haymitch, because they're kind of very similar and they do come from the same place. And while I enjoyed seeing the history of District 12 in this book, I don't know, I would love to see a different district maybe, or a different point of view. I know Phoenix Games are brought up a lot as a dream prequel book, and I kind of agree with that because he is a very beloved character and played by a very beloved actor in the movies, and he also has a very different perspective because he was a career tribute, whereas everyone else that we've seen was forced into this involuntarily. He has a very different perspective, and then he has a story even after his games that could explore what a victor's life is like in the capital outside of their districts and how they interact with that. And then he also falls in love with Annie, and that's a whole nother part to his story. So there's, I feel a lot there that could be done. So that's my dream book. Suzanne Collins, if you're listening. Also, in my vlog, I noticed I keep avoiding saying Suzanne Collins because I'm trying not to do author worship anymore, because there's a certain Joanne out there who ruins that, I think, for a lot of us who grew up with their books. So I just keep saying Suzanne Collins, and Suzanne Collins has done nothing wrong, so she doesn't deserve that from me. I did love the inclusion of the songs and the poems in this book. I love that it is referencing a kind of literary past, and I like that she is tying it in now more with American history, and The Hunger Games kind of went over the heads of some people when the movies came out. The fact that it was a comment on the war against terror and reality TV of the time. I think that she is being more blatant and more clear about this being a direct parallel and mirror to, what's going on in politics today, and I like that she is including poems as a way to tie it in with American history and make sure that nobody can miss that this is meant to be about a dystopian America. I feel those are my thoughts. I feel really drained after reading it, but also I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it so much, and I'm really open to other people's ideas. I really want to know how other people are feeling about this book. I just checked Goodreads. I haven't watched any reviews or anything because I didn't want to like copy anyone's opinions or like anything like that. I really am interested in what other people feel about this. From Goodreads, I think that it's currently like at a much higher star rating than The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is really interesting to me. I don't know. If you like have opinions, like I really want to know them. I feel like this has been a really impactful book, and I feel like a lot of people are talking about it from like the snippets I've seen, even without like trying to look for it. Oh, also like the foreshadowing. It's not really like that subtle foreshadowing exactly, so I'm not like a genius or anything like I felt like I was when I was like picking up on it. But the fact that all Haymitch's acts of resistance are basically cut out of the games, that sucks. And that's where it's like another mirror to Katniss's game, like a dark subversion of that, where her acts of resistance were televised and, you know, created a real spark of rebellion in the districts, where she honors Rue's death, where she volunteers for her sister. All of Haymitch's acts of rebellion and all of his ties to District 12 are cut out of the games, or at least the recap, and that fucking sucks. That's awful. I put in my notes that it seems like Haymitch is a little bit too aware of like how he might be portrayed on television. It comes to bite him later in the ass, where he thought that he was being portrayed in one way, or that he was painting this poster of a rebellious rascal who is taking those small acts of rebellion against the Capitol, and that was like all cut out, and it made him look like an asshole. That just sucks, because we know that's the interpretation that Katniss and Peeta have of him when they meet him as a mentor, and to know for that long that it was not who he was, and that he was a very sensitive person. He was funny, he was kind, but he was just so destroyed after the games with guilt and with what people thought of what he'd done. That, damn, like that sucks, man. And honestly, you know, if I'm pitching other sequels that I would love, I know this kind of goes against what I said about how we kind of already know how Haymitch is seen in between the 50th and the 74th. I would kind of like to see something about victors interacting with each other and how they interpret what each other have done as a part of their games, because they're obviously all forced into these horrible situations where they have to hurt other people, but is there still like a moral hierarchy amongst them? And we saw a little bit of that in Catching Fire, which is why it's personally my favorite. Victors are making this like judgments about other victors, but it's hypocritical because they're focusing on the wrong thing, because they've all been forced into this horrible situation, and it's not about the infighting, it's about like the unity that can come from them all being victims of the Capitol. I would love to see that in a future prequel, if more prequels are coming, and it seems like maybe, possibly, like fingers crossed, there will be more prequels because they seem to be doing well, I think. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more content, I have a whole 4 videos posted, but I would like to post more about books, reading, trying to stay off my phone, de-influencing, like light de-influencing, I would say, and like, I don't know, whatever's on my mind. I really enjoyed doing this for the past month, and I made a goal to try to do this for a year, just to see what happens. So if you'd like to hang out with me, you can click subscribe or not, it's whatever, but please let me know what you thought of the book. Yeah, bye.